How's it going, everybody? My name's Luke C. Marcotte, and welcome back to the Blue Collar Power Hour. Today, we're going to be talking about planning for success. Now, planning for success is one of the most important things in not only the trades, not only your career, but your entire life. I say 99% of success happens in the pre-planning, in the preparation, and 1% happens in the follow-through. And I say this because 99% of success is where you get everything ready, you get it organized, and so you go in for the kill, but without that 1% of follow-through, it's impossible for you to even make use of the preparation. Now, if you have 99% of follow-through but 1% of preparation, then you're just kind of spinning your tires, putting out more effort than you really need to get it done. And it goes back to the old saying of someone that goes out with an axe and cuts down a tree in 8 hours of swinging it. And on the other hand, there's somebody that sits there and sharpens their axe for 6 hours. And at the end of that 6 hours, they go down and cut the same tree down in 2 hours. Now, the other guy worked a hell of a lot harder. He may have looked like he was getting more done the whole day while the other guy was sitting there sharpening his axe. But at the end of the day, he only went out and with only 2 hours of labor, cut down the same tree. Now, who's the dumbass in that situation? So with success, it's all in the preparation. How I prepare comes down to a lot of lists. I write lists for everything. I have a power list on my phone. It's in my notes on my iPhone. I go through and I have the dates written down every day, and I have at least 5 critical tasks that I go through. And this is Andy Frisella's power list idea, but I've just expanded on it for myself. What works for me, and obviously you have to change it for what works for you. But anyways, Andy Frisella's version, you go on there, you have 5 critical tasks. And these are major tasks that only you can get done, not something you can delegate, something you need to get done that day. And so once you get those 5 tasks done, you're done for the day. You're free to go, you're free to play, whatever you want to do. And that way you're focusing on the very critical tasks at hand that you need to be focusing on, and you make sure you get them done. If you get done before noon, guess what? You're off, you're done. Now, obviously, when you're starting a company, you put in a lot more hours than that. You're wearing a lot more hats, but in the end of the day, Power List is what helps you get to your better life a lot sooner. And I make lists for everything. As soon as we get to a job, I write lists out. What do we need to do? Tasks at hand, in the smallest format. This room needs plugs. The upstairs bedroom needs plugs. The downstairs bedroom needs plugs. It needs light switches throughout the house. It needs a light in this room. It needs a fan in this room. And I write these all down so that when we get to the job, we have a plan of attack. We go down the room. Everybody takes a task. They go do it. When they're done, they come back and cross it off. And it gives you a feeling of satisfaction because it's just one less task that you have. And you see this list slowly start getting depleted. And then, it gets to the end of the day and sometimes you're like, hey, there's only 3 or 4 tasks left. Why not just get them done with? And we come back and we just cross them off and you're good to go. Now, on the other hand, I also have a parts list on the other side of that. So anytime anybody needs any part we don't have on the truck or van, you can just go up there, write it down, and you should write it down immediately. Don't try to remember it, anything. Just have it on this list and write it down, drop what you're doing, and go put it there. So that way you're sure not to forget it and waste even more time tomorrow. Now again, that's success because of preparation. You got to prepare. Going back to the 99-1 rule, if you didn't write that down because you thought, you know what, I'll write it down at the end of the day or whatever, and you didn't get that, you didn't do the 99% of preparation. Now you're going to get to the job, you're like, oh shit, we still need that. Well, then you're going to run back to the parts house, and that's going into 99% follow through because you're still following through. You're just putting so much more effort on that when you only put 1% into preparation. And so you got to really work it out so that way it works in your favor and you can actually work smarter, not harder, and not just say that saying and try to act cool with it. So preparation is extremely important in any part of your life. You got to be sure to follow through and you got to be sure to prepare. You can't do one or the other, or else it's just a train wreck. Now, planning for success in your entire career comes down to a lot of different ways for a lot of different people based off where you started. I started when I was 15 years old. I knew I wanted to start an electrical contracting company, and not just a electrical contracting company, but the best electrical contracting company, one that would revolutionize an industry. And so how we were going to do that? a lot of preparation, and a lot of pre-planning. And so I started at 15 years old. My hobby wasn't going out two-tracking with my buddies. It was going on Craigslist and searching work bands and drawing up blueprints of our future shop and drawing up logos and different names and all this, and how I would do it in systems of where people would be. And I was 15, 16 years old doing that. And that's not a pat on my back for being some boy genius, because believe me, I graduated high school with less than a 1.0 grade point average. It's just I had a dream and I wanted to prepare for it. And I did so. At 16 years old, I started spending at least 10% of my paycheck every single Friday on tools. I did that so we were able to hit the ground running and get going on our mission. Now, going back to the pre-planning and the follow-through aspect, that was all pre-planning. Now, if I bought all those tools and I never put them to work, it would never be a success. It would never be a dream come true. But then again, if I would have never pre-planned, I would have blown all that money like most people do, and then I went in here and I did the follow-through, well, then I'd just be working way harder than I had to. And so, it doesn't matter. You don't have to start at 16 years old for this. I mean, it's just I was some sick, fucked up, demented kid, I guess, in that aspect. But even if you're 26, if you're 40, it's never too late to start. You just got to pre-plan. You got to put a plan in place and you got to follow it. And so you got to make lists, you got to make deadlines on every single thing. So when I make a list, especially in long-term goals, I make lists for 3 months, 6 months, 9 months, a year, 5 years, 10 years, etc. And you got to be willing to stick to that. And you got to also be willing to maneuver around when things are going to work and when they're not going to work. And so when it comes down to the time for you to choose which trade you want to be in, make sure it's a life that you want to live. Make sure it's a career that you could see yourself growing in. Make sure you do your pre-planning. Make sure you do your preparation. Because let me tell you, if you wish you were an electrician, but you become a plumber, well, you're not going to be as great. Now, maybe you had an opportunity to get it in plumbing. That's fine. That's awesome. But maybe you should stick with it. And maybe sometimes you need to realize that you're just trying to jump around and do something different. There's so many different aspects about it that you got to keep yourself in check. And sometimes you just got to hunker down and do the fucking work. But if you got the time, you got the leeway to pre-plan and find out which trade you want to actually be a part of and see what kind of tradesman you want to be. If you look back at our past videos, you see that I talk about how to choose and what you want to be. Maybe you want to be a commercial electrician. Maybe you want to be an industrial plumber. Maybe you want to be a residential landscaper. There's so many different aspects and subsectors to every trade, which we'll hit on more in future podcasts with guests from the subsectors to give you a better insight to help you figure out what you want to do. But I also urge you to not wait. Don't wait for 2 years from now when that commercial electrician comes in and then gives you a description of what it is, and you're like, oh, I guess that's the subsector I want to hit. Imperfect action is better than no action. So get your ass in there, get started, but make sure that if you have the chance to pre-plan, make sure you try talk to somebody in that trade before. Maybe you try talk to me on Instagram. Maybe talk to some influencer on Instagram that's a carpenter, or whatever that you want to be. The best way to learn things is to go and talk to people. As far as planning more for success long term, plan with a company that you want to be with. There's no use in working in a company that maybe your dad started for 4 years because you want to get ready to go work at this bigger company and help climb up the ladder. Get in there, find the company culture, figure out who the people are, start building those relationships, and know this before you even go in there. And so that way you're like, okay, that's the owner, that's the vice president, this guy's this guy, get in with this guy, I'm going to start learning from him, I'm going to start providing value to him because I want to be working under him. And then guess what? I want to be moved up and work as his equal. And then guess what? I want to keep going and move up again. Now, mind you, you do not have to have your entire career, your entire life planned out, because 99% of the time, it's going to change along the way. Daily, it's going to change along the way. You just got to be able to roll with the punches and figure out your way around it to get to where you really want to be. And sometimes you start and you say, you know what? I want to own the company. Sometimes you say, you know what? I want to be the vice president of this large company or whatever it is. And you get in there and you get into a foreman position. You're like, ooh, I kind of like this work truck. I kind of like these benefits. I'm fine with this pay. I love this pay. I love the people I work with, and you don't want to leave from there. And to each their own. You gotta write your own story. Just planning for it is just so helpful in the long-term career as in the small term on every single job. There's baby steps in everything. Just like I said, writing down the list when you get to a job, it's all baby steps. You want a light in this room, a light in that room, fans in this room, can lights throughout the living room. And you do the baby steps because then it's just not a huge overwhelming task. You go up there, you cross off the can lights in the living room. You did it. Great. Feels good, you cross it off the list. Well, guess what? What's next? Oh, just look at the next one. Don't worry about the other 500 items on the list. Just go to the next one. Work on that one. It's my power list. I don't try to do the whole list at once. I just do one task at a time. You start knocking them off, and it goes the same when you're on a job for a day to when you're in a career for 20 years. Sometimes you got to find a company. Sometimes you got to find the subsector you want to be, and then you find the company that matches that. Sometimes you get hired in that company, cross it off the list. Sometimes you get on your first job, cross it off the list. Sometimes it's buying your first tool, cross it off the list. Moving up in a position, getting your license, helping somebody and becoming more of a friend and building a relationship with them. It's all baby steps along the way. And so you just got to plan for it, you got to maneuver it, and you got to think about it more than anything. Because a lot of people go into it blind and get pissed 20 years later when they're still just working on jobs, which is a great option, but a lot of people, they wish, hope, and dream of bigger things, but they just never plan for it. And again, it goes back to the 99-1 rule. 99% of success happens in the preparation, 1% in the follow-through. So thanks for tuning in again today. If you like this, make sure you like, comment, subscribe, share with your friends. Maybe you have a child, maybe you have a friend, a cousin, somebody you know looking to get into the trades. Send them on over our way. Reach out to me on Instagram at Luke C. Marcotte. The comment will be in the description below. Feel free to shoot me a DM. I'm always open to helping people. Make sure you reach out, because like I said in the video, sometimes that's just the best way to move forward. And again, my name is Luke C. Marcotte. This is the Blue Collar Power Hour. We'll catch you next time. Oh, I guess that's the subsector I want to hit. God damn, dog. Do you think that's gonna f up the audio?
Yeah, you'll hear it.